because of the unusual topology on the top and on the bottom, I like to use something else. And this is a round cube. You'll probably not find this option in your own add menu. So what I want you to do is go to Edit, Preferences, and under Get Extensions, make sure the extra mesh object is installed on your PC. And under add-ons, make sure it's checked from here. And once you have done that, if you press Shift A to add in a new mesh, you see all these extra objects. The one I like to use is the round cube. And we can see that we have even topology all around the mesh. Something else I like to do to make adding this round cube easier is adding it to my quick favorite. I have some tools I've added to my quick favorite, and the round cube is one of them. So if I just select the round cube from my quick favorite, it automatically adds a round cube to my scene. I also have the mirror modifier and the solidify modifier in my quick favorites, and if you want to do that, you can just come over here, search for any modifier, and you can add it to your quick favorites. With that done, I'm just going to jump into the sculpting workspace of Blender. And if you're using an older version of Blender, you might notice that my sculpting workspace is a bit different from yours.
Hello,
It no
mic
longer
test.
have a lot of brushes and the
One, two,
toolbars.
three.
All the brushes are now in the brush assets cell, and it can actually increase the size and actually show names on this menu. Something else I like to do to set up my workspace is I'm going to press N on the keyboard to bring up the Blender sidebar. And under view, I like to change the focal length. If you sculpt more, you'll find out that the focal length of 50 millimeters is too wide. So I personally like to use 150, which can be a bit too much. So I recommend maybe somewhere around 80 or 100. But I personally like to use 150, so you can choose whatever it is that works for you. I'm going to close that bar with N, and I'm just going to split my viewports like this. I'm going to press T to close the sidebar, and I'll just scroll all the way down, and I'll turn off show gizmos and show overlays, and I'll drag down the brush assets show. This viewport is where I can view the progression of the sculpt as a whole, and in this viewport is where I can get into the details of sculpting every part of my character. I like to have this viewport here so that I can see the overall progression of the sculpt as it goes. And this is how I like to set up my Blender workspace in sculpting. I'll see you guys in the next video to show you the Blender tools that I use. So there are a lot of brushes to use in Blender, and the main one you're using for this course are mainly in general. These general brushes are what we'll be using mainly. I'll just come over here and enable the names of these brushes. I'll just drag this down slightly. There are many brushes that we can choose from. I can just select any one and use it on my object. And by the way, you always see the brush I'm using over here or up. You see the name displayed up in this place just in case I don't see the name of the brush I'm using. So like I said, there are a lot of brushes, and coming down here to always select each brush every time you want to change a brush can be a bit daunting, but that's why we have hotkeys in Blender. There's some certain hotkeys that if I press, I switch to different brushes. So if I press Shift C on my keyboard, you can see that I switch to the Crease Polish brush. If I press Shift T on the keyboard, I go to the Script brush, and there are a lot of brushes here, so that's why I created this Blender Sculpting hotkey sheet so that you can get yourself familiar with all the hotkeys for changing brushes. And also, if that's overwhelming, something else you can do is just add the brushes you use the most to your quick favorite menu. I have some brushes I already use here, but you can just select on any brush and add to quick favorite. So once you press Q on the keyboard, you have it in a quick favorite, and you can just easily select it from the quick favorites other than going all the way down here to select a brush. And I think that's an easy alternative. You can just add all the brushes you use the most to your quick favorites. So now let's actually get started with some sculpting. In this video, I'm going to just go ahead and show you how I sculpt a bust in Blender. So let's set up our Blender workspace for sculpting. I'm just going to select everything and delete, and I'm going to add in a round cube. I also have this added to my quick favorites, so I can add this from my quick favorites whenever I want to. I'm going to change the number of divisions on my round cube to 14. And we can now go into the sculpting workspace and start sculpting. Before we start sculpting, I'm just going to change the scale design modifier. I can add this from here from my quick favorite, so you can go down here from your modifiers and just add in a mirror modifier. I'm going to select the mirror object as the head, and then I'm just going to scale these eyes and put them into place. Something like this. We will still go back into sculpt mode for the head and sculpt the region around the eye. But for now, this should work okay. Alright, so now I want to color in the pupils for the eye. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'll select this vertex, and while holding down Ctrl and plus on the numpad, I'm going to select this and deselect roots close for the eye. Sculpt the area around the eye just to give it a bit more shape. I'm just going to pull this backwards. I'm just going to smooth out that area around the eye. Also the same thing for this bottom part. I'm just going to pull this side backwards a little bit, something like this, and that should seem fine. Once we add in the eyelids, everything will look much better. But before we add in the eyelids, I'm just going to use the crease polish brush, and then I'm going to mark out where the eyebrows will sit. Somewhere around here, the eyebrows will sit somewhere around here. I'm just going to smooth this out while holding down shift. Alright, that's okay. Now let's add in the eyelids. We're going to need a bit more resolution, so I'll press R to bring up the voxel size. I'll just take this about 0.03 and Ctrl R to remesh. And then I'm going to use the draw brush to just draw out the eyelids. I'll just hold down and draw over the top part of the eye. I'm just going to smooth out this top part here. And then I'm also going to draw in the lower eyelid. I'll smooth out this area here. Alright, so I'm going to use the grab brush to just make this look a bit more nicer. I'm just going to pull this out. I'm going to make these eyelids actually wider. And on this side, I just want it to be a little bit more rounded. Something like this. And I'm going to add in more resolution. I'll take it to 0.02 or thereabouts, and I'll remesh everything. And then with the crease brush, I'm just going to crease this area in. And while holding down Control, I'm going to mark out that upper edge of the eyelid, like so. And also do the same for the bottom edge of the eyelid. Now just smooth out the surrounding areas. And I want to bring this area of the eye just a bit more down, and I'll smooth it out so that it doesn't look weird. I'll just pull this out and shape this. smudge nicely. Alright, so now we can actually go in and add in the nose for this character. I'm just going to smooth out things for the eye before I add in the nose. Alright, let's add in the nose. In object mode, I'm going to add in a new round cue, and in edit mode, I'll scale this down and bring this forward. And I'll just place it somewhere around here where the nose might be. And now we can go into sculpt mode and sculpt on the nose. I'm just going to pull this shape of the nose into the face just to get this triangular shape like so. And I'm also going to pull in this side just to get in that triangle shape, something like this. And then I'm just going to, with the grab brush, I'm going to pull in these areas for the nostrils. I'm just going to pull in this area, something like that is fine. And when we remesh this, we can add in more resolution and refine this, but for now this is going to be fine. And now the character is looking a bit weird without the eyebrows and the eyelashes, so I'm just going to go in and add in the eyebrows and the eyelashes. Before I do that, I'm just going to crease out where the eyebrows sits, something like that, and I'll smooth everything out. Alright, so let's add the eyebrows of these characters. I'm going to go into object mode, shift A, mesh, and add in a plane. And I'm going to rotate this on the x-axis by 90 degrees in edit mode. I'll bring this forward, scale this down. I'm just going to bring this into place where the eyebrow will be. And for us to make the eyebrow, we need to turn on snapping. I'm just going to change the snap target to face project. And I'm also going to turn on affect rotation and scale. And I'm going to turn on snapping. So once I scale this down, it now snaps to the surface of the character. So I'm just going to model in a simple eyebrow. I'm going to select these two edges, extrude them, and extrude them again. And then I'm just going to scale this down at this corner. I'll add in another edge loop here. I'm just going to space this out. Something like this should look good for an eyebrow. I'm just going to scale everything on the z-axis. And now I'm going to add in a mirror modifier. And I'm also going to add in a solidify modifier. I'm going to change the thickness of the solidify modifier, something like this. And I want to add in a color for the eyebrow. So I'm just going to go into the object properties under viewport display. And I'm just going to change the color to a dark color like this. And I'm just going to adjust the eyebrow in edit mode. I'll move these two vertices up like so, just to match the reference. And I'm just going to rotate everything this way. I'll pull this vertex spin. And something about here is fine. Alright, something like this is fine. And we can go ahead and add in the eyelashes. But before we do that, I think I just want to make the eye shape a lot bigger. So
to your cue, now right now.
Brush and just make the eyes a lot bigger. And I'm just going to make sure that the eyelids wrap and sit around the eyes. I'm just going to smooth out this area just like so. And with the crease brush, I'm just going to mark out the edges of the eyelid. And before we go ahead and actually add the eyelashes, I just want to make this part of the jaw a lot more smoother in my own sculpt. So I'm just going to pull this in. I'm just going to smooth this out I'll pull this out a little bit. I'm just going to smooth out this area, something like this. I'll pull out this area just to make it a bit more rounded, and I'll smooth out the under of the jaw. And something like this is fine. I'm going to use the inflate brush and just add in a bit more volume right here. And now we can go ahead and add in the eyelashes. I'm going to use the same object of the eyebrows for the eyelashes. I'm just going to select a vertex from the brows, and I'm going to Shift D to duplicate this vertex, and I'm going to extrude along the eyelid just like so. Make sure snapping is still turned on for this. I'm just going to extrude somewhere around here, should be fine. And now I'm going to select these edges. I'm going to turn off snapping. I'm just going to extrude them out and up. SX to scale it on the x-axis. I'll just bring this up, and we don't want this side to be this thick, so I'm just going to select these edges. I'll double tap G to slide that edge, and I'll just do the same for all the other vertices until I get a shape I like. And I'm just going to pull this back, something like this, and I'm actually going to go into sculpt mode. I'll use the grab brush to just shape these eyelashes, and I can also hold down shift to smooth out the shapes of the eyelashes. And I'm also going to shape this side of the eyelashes, something like this. I'm going to go back into edit mode. I'm going to add in an extra loop cut here. I'm just going to use Alt S to scale it in, and I'm just going to pull these together. Alright, something like this is fine. And I want to increase the size of
Hello. हजुर ए आज अपोइन्टमेन्ट थियो नि त त्यो अन्कोलोजिस्टसँग अर्को डक्टरसँग त्यो अनि त्यो डक्टरसँग भएन आज अब भोलिलाई राखिदियो गाइनोकाहरूले चाहिँ अब अर्को किमोवाला डक्टरलाई कन्सल्ट गर्नु भनेर भनेका छन् क्या अँ अह त्यस्तो केही भने Hello, mic test. I was in a call with my grandma.
This eyeball, I'm just going to add in another loop cut here, and I'm going to select those surrounding faces with Ctrl plus, and I'm going to go back into the vertex paints, and with those faces selected, I'm just going to paint in the black color like so. Alright, that seems fine. I'm going to also make this color of the eyebrow just a bit dark. Yeah, something like this is fine. And now I'm going to merge the nose with the head. I'm going to select the nose and select the head, and press Ctrl G to join these two objects together. And in sculpt mode, before we start sculpting, I'm just going to remesh everything together. I'll increase the voxel size by a bit, and I'm going to press Ctrl R to remesh them together. And now once we have them remeshed together, I'm going to use the clay shield brush. I'm just going to blend in a transition between the nose and the head objects. Transition is brush. And now once we press Ctrl R to remove size by sculpting them both together. And in sculpt mode. Before we start sculpting, I'm just going to remesh everything together. I'll increase the voxel size by a bit, and I'm going to press Ctrl R to remesh them together. And now once we have them remeshed together, I'm going to use the clay shield brush. I'm just going to blend in a transition between the nose and the head object. And I'm going to use the grab brush, and I'll just pull back this nose tree area. Shift C. I'm going to use the crease brush, and I'll just crease in the side of the nose like so, and I'll smooth out the surrounding areas. I'm going to rotate these eyes just something like this, and with that done, you can actually now go in and sculpt the mouth of the character. Before we start sculpting the mouth, I'm just going to smooth out this area, and I'm also going to pull out the back of the head just to give it a much nicer shape. And then I'm going to use the crease brush to still mark out that area, that separation between the jaw and the cranium, and I'll just smooth things out. I'll use the inflate brush, and I'm just going to inflate this area. Alright, that's fine. Now let's add in the lips. I'm going to use the clay shield brush, and I'm going to turn on the size pressure for my brush, and I'm just going to inflate that area where the lips should be, and I'll smooth it out a little bit. Alright, so I'll just pull out where that mouth would be, somewhere around there. And now we are going to use the crease brush to add in the lips. I'm just going to mark where the corner of the lips should be, somewhere around here, or I'm going to take it in somewhere around here. Alright, that looks fine. And then I'm just going to mark a straight line between those two corners like so. And I'll just mark out that straight line like so. I'm going to use the grab brush, and I'll pull the corner of the mouth in, and I'm also going to pull out the lips. And I'm pulling out the lips because the lips wrap around the teeth, so I just want to make sure to indicate that in my sculpt, just to make it a little bit more anatomically correct. So I'm just going to make this lip round just like so. Alright, that's okay. So now let's actually add in the lips. I'm going to use the draw brush. I'm going to add in the lips here. And then I'm going to use the crease brush, and while holding down Ctrl, I'm going to mark out the edge of the upper lip, just like so. And I'm going to pull this out and make this more rounded. With the crease brush, I'm just going to mark out that lip, and then I'm going to mark out the chin. I'm going to smooth this out, and then while holding down Ctrl with the crease brush, I'm just going to mark out the lower edge of the lip. Something like this is fine. I'm just going to smooth everything out. just like so. I'm also going to smooth out this area here, and I'm actually just going to pull down this corner of the lip. I'll pull this backward into the face. I'm just going to change the size of my brush, and I'm just going to pull the nose and the mouth down a bit, just to match the proportions in my reference. Just going to pull the mouth down, and then I'm also going to pull this side of the jaw up, and I'll just smooth out the sides of the face. I'm going to use the grab brush. I'll just pull out this area here, and I'll smooth it out. And once again with the crease brush, I'm just going to crease in the edge of the upper lip, and I'll also crease in the corner of the mouth, and I'll just smooth out the surrounding areas. Alright, that is looking fine for now. So let's leave the face for a bit and let's sculpt in the other body part. I'm going to start with the torso, and in edit mode I'll just scale this in a little bit more, and I'm going to rotate this even further, something like this. With the grab brush, I'm going to pull this forward, and I'm also going to use the line project brush. I've also added that to my quick favorites. I'm going to use the line project brush. I just make this straight like so. Alright, that's fine. I'm going to add in a bit more resolution. I'll press R to bring up the pixel size, and then Ctrl R to remesh these objects, and I'm just going to gently smooth out over everything. And I'm also going to switch to the neck objects. R to bring up the pixel size, and I'm going to remesh this. I'm just going to smooth everything out. Alright, that should be fine. So now let's sculpt the ears. I'm just going to go into edit mode and scale this down. Also scale it on the Z axis a bit. And in sculpt mode, I'm just going to press R to bring up the voxel size, and I'll take this about 0.02. Now I'm going to remesh that, and we're just going to gently smooth out the ear. Alright, I'm going to use the drop brush to dig out this area of the ear. While holding down Ctrl, I'm just going to dig in this area of the ear, just like so. Then while holding down Shift, I'm going to smooth this out. I'm just going to use the crease brush to mark out that inner area of the ear. I'm also going to use the crease brush while holding down Ctrl to mark out the edge of the ear. I'm just going to go in and adjust the neck, something like this. And now I want to add in the collar of these shirts, and we're just going to do that with simple modeling. I'm going to Shift A and add in a plane, and I'll bring this to this side here, scale it down, rotate it. Actually, before I do anything, I don't want to move the origin point of this object, so I'm just going to do all those transforms in edit mode. I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees, and I'll bring this to this side of the character, and I'm going going to add in a mirror modifier. Then I'm just going to make that shape of the collar. I'm going to pull this down. I'll select this edge, E to extrude, and I'm also going to make sure to turn on clipping in the mirror modifier. I'm also going to use the pierce brush to add this just of the ear, just like so. Then by holding down shift, I'm going to I'm going to use the drop brush to dig out this area of the ear. While holding down Control, I'm just going to dig in this area of the ear, this area of the ear. While holding down Control, I'm just going to dig in this area of the ear. just like so. Then by holding down shift, I'm going to smooth this out. I'm just going to use the crease brush to mark out the inner area of the ear. I'm also going to use the crease brush while holding down control to mark out the edge of the ear. I'm just going to go in and adjust the neck, something like this. And now I want to add in the collar of these shirts, and we're just going to do that with simple modeling. I'm going to shift A and add in a plane, and I'll bring this to this side here, scale it down, rotate it. Actually, before I do anything, I don't want to move the origin point of this object, so I'm just going to do all those transforms in edit mode. I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees, and I'll bring this to this side of the character, and I'm going to add in a mirror modifier. Then I'm just going to make that shape of the collar. I'm going to pull this down. I'll select this edge, E to extrude, and I'm also going to make sure to turn on clipping in the mirror modifier, and I'm going to extrude this edge and put them together. And then I'm going to extrude this, yeah, something like this. I'm going to extrude this out, and I'm going to extrude this down, just like so. I'm going to pull this vertex back, pull this one back. I'm going to add in an extra edge loop here, Alt S, so just shrink this in, and I'll bring this vertex out like so. And now we can add a solidify modifier to this. I'm just going to change the thickness of the solidify modifier, and I'm going to select Ctrl 1 to add in a subdivision surface modifier, and I'll add in an extra edge loop.
Hello, hello.
Here, and just bring this down to here. All right, I'm also going to add another edge loop. With the crease brush, I'm just going to mark out that lip, and then I'm going to mark out the chin. I'm going to smooth this out, and then while holding down control with the crease brush, I'm just going to mark out the lower edge of the lip. Something like this is fine. I'm just going to smooth everything out. Just like so. I'm also going to smooth out this area here. And I'm actually just going to pull down this corner of the lip. I'll pull this backward into the face.
Hello, welcome to my life. This is day 2 of me learning to sculpt in Blender.
I'm just going to change the size of my brush, and I'm just going to pull the nose and the mouth down a bit. Just to match the proportions in my reference, I'm just going to pull the mouth down, and then I'm also going to pull this side of the jaw up, and I'll just smooth out the sides of the face. I'm going to use the grab brush. I'll just pull out this area here, and I'll smooth it out. And once again with the crease brush, I'm just going to crease in the edge of the upper lip, and I'll also crease in the corner of the mouth, and I'll just smooth out the surrounding areas. Alright, that is looking fine for now. So let's leave the face for a bit and let's sculpt in the other body part. I'm going to start with the torso, and in edit mode I'll just scale this in a little bit more, and I'm going to rotate this even further, something like this. With the grab brush, I'm going to pull this forward, and I'm also going to use the line project brush. I've also added that to my quick fill right. I'm going to use the line project brush and just make this straight like so. Alright, that's fine. I'm going to add in a bit more resolution. I'll press R to bring up the pixel size, and then Ctrl R to remesh this object, and I'm just going to gently smooth out over everything. And I'm I'm also going to switch to the make objects R to bring up the Vogdale size, and I'm going to remove this. I'm just going to smooth everything out. Alright, that should be fine. So now let's sculpt the ears. I'm just going to go into edit I'm going to use anything down. Also going to make sure to add in a mirror modifier side of the character. And I'm going to add in a mirror modifier. Then I'm just going to make that shape of the collar. I'm going to pull this down. I'll select this edge, E to extrude, and I'm also going to make sure to turn on clipping in the mirror modifier, and I'm going to extrude this edge and put them together, and then I'm going to extrude this, yeah, something like this. I'm going to extrude this out, and I'm going to extrude this down, just like so. I'm going to pull this vertex back, pull this one back. I'm going to add in an extra edge loop here, Alt S, to just shrink this in, and I'll bring this vertex out like so. And now we can add a solidify modifier to this. I'm just going to change the thickness of the solidify modifier, and I'm going to select Ctrl 1 to add in a subdivision surface modifier, and I'll add in an extra edge loop here and just bring this down to here. Alright, I'm also going to add another edge loop here, Alt S to shrink this, and I'll just take that in, and I want to bring this one closer to the middle, and I'm just going to add an edge loop here. I'm just going to go into the sculpt mode and add in a bit of shape to the collar in sculpt mode, and I'm just going to go back to edit mode and make sure this edge is sitting outside of this inner one. I'll just pull this one back, also this vertex here. And then I'm going to pull this in. I can apply the mirror modifier, and then I can adjust this separately on this side, and I'll just pull this color out like so. Something like that is fine. And I'll just even do it a bit more. I'll select these edges, bring this up, and I'm also going to select these ones, and I'll just pull this to the side. Alright, and I'm just going to right click and shade this smooth. That is lovely. In sculpt mode, I'm going to turn on symmetry, and I'm going to pull this down. Alright, now let's add in the thigh. I'm just going to use a cube, and I'm going to bring this down here. I'll scale this down, and Ctrl 1 to add in the subdivision surface, and I'll change the level to 2. And then in edit mode, SY, I'm going to scale this and the Y axis. I'm going to select these edges here, XX to scale them on the X axis. I'm going to add a loop cut here and another one here. SX to scale this down. I'll bring this one down a bit, and these two I'm just going to bring them up like so. And then I'm going to rotate this and bring this right here. I'm going to shade this smooth, and we have this top side of the thigh. I'm just going to pull this down a bit, something like this. I'm going to select this vertex, Alt S, to scale it out, and I'm just going to pull this up. Alright, that's fine. I'm going to add in another cube, and let's model this bottom part. I'm going to scale this, Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision level of 2. Then I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to select everything, SY to scale it on the Y axis. I'll add in an edge loop here and another edge loop here. I'll add in one more here. I'm just going to select all of this, SX to scale it on the X axis, something like this. And I'm just going to scale this down, also this one. I'm just going to select these vertices. I'm going to pull them down. I'm just going to add an extra edge loop somewhere around here, and then I'm going to rotate this into place for the thigh. And in edit mode, I'll actually just bring this out and add a bit of curvature to it. And I'll just add in one more edge loop here, and I'll bring this out just like so. Alright, something like this is fine. I'm just going to sculpt mode, and I'm going to refine this shape. So I'll add in an edge loop here, and I'm just going to, from the side view, I'll just pull this out a little bit. I'm going to select this vertex and this vertex, and I'll pull them back. Alright, and that seems lovely for the thigh. Now I'm just going to select this object, and I'll sculpt this into place. Just follow the shape of the thigh, and again I'm going to use the line project brush. I'll just slice this, and I'll smooth everything out. Alright, and then I'm going to select this and shade smooth. In edit mode, I'll just select everything and move this more into place. And I think I want to adjust this shape. I'm just going to make these shoulders a lot more slanted, something like this. And now we have sculpted the shirt, the tie, and the collar. I'm just going to add in a bit of color to this. I'm just going to make this dark, and I'm going to hover over this color and press Ctrl C to copy this color. I'll select these objects and Ctrl V to paste that color. Maybe I'll just bring this up a little bit. I'll copy this color, Ctrl C, and paste it in this other object. Alright, that is fine. And then lastly, I'm just going to add in this little bit of connection in the for the tire. I'm just going to add in a cube, or maybe I'll use a plane this time, and I'll bring this down. I'll rotate this on the x-axis by 90, and I'll just bring this back somewhere here. And in edit mode, I'll scale this down, bring this up. I'll add an edge loop here. I'm just going to extrude till I reach the front side of the tire. I'm just going to extrude into this tire like so, and I'll actually make sure to follow the edge of the collar, and we are going to add a mirror modifier.
अहिले यो केटी टक्ला छे, चाँडै नै यसको कपाल पलाउने छ, चिन्ता नगर्नुहोला।
modifier, so don't really worry about this side. And something like this is fine. I'm going to add in a solidify modifier and a subdivision surface modifier. I'm going to increase the thickness for the solidify modifier. And now I'm also going to add in a mill modifier. I'm just going to select these two edges here, X and delete. And then I'm going to add in a mill modifier. And I'll move the mill modifier above a modifier stack. And I'm just going to add in an edge loop here. I'll just scale this and put it into the tire like so. And I'm also going to paste that color to the tire, and I'm going to shade this smooth. I'm just going to go into sculpt mode and just sculpt this into place, just like so. Alright, that looks fine. Now let's go ahead and fix up the face, and then we'll add in the hair for this character. I'm just going to pull this in, and I'm also going to adjust the eyelashes a bit, and I'll make this part of the eye even a bit bigger, something like this. I also add a subdivision surface to this. I'll add in extra loop cuts here. just going to adjust the shapes of the face. I'll pull this mouth out a bit, and I'm going to pull in this side of the face, and I'll pull out the cheek and just make that more rounded, like so. And now I'm going to increase the resolution for the head about 0.01, and I'm going to remesh everything. And before I start sculpting, I'm just going to select the head. I'm going to select the neck, the ear, and the head, and I'm going to join them together to the head. Ctrl G to join them together. And if I press slash on the keyboard, I can isolate these meshes. And then I'm going to go into sculpt mode. I'm going to remesh again to join those objects together. Alright, so now we can start sculpting everything in place. I'm just going to use the clean sheet brush, and I'm going to smooth out the transition between the neck and the head. And while holding down shift, I'm just going to smooth out everything. Then I'm also going to smooth out this area. Alright, I'm going to press slash to bring back the other objects, and I'm going to use the crease brush to mark out that edge of the eyelids. And I'm just going to smooth out the surrounding areas. I'm going to use the crease brush. Now just mark out that area for the lip once again, and I'll also mark out the corners. Then I'm going to crease the edge of the lips. I'm also going to crease the edge of the lower lip, and I'm just going to smooth out the surrounding areas. I'm also going to mark out the side of the nose, and I also smooth out the surrounding areas. Alright, and I'm going to shade everything smooth. I'm also going to select the eyebrows and eyelashes and shade them smooth. I'm just going to smooth out this transition here. Alright, that is fine. And now we can add in the hair for this character. I'm going to use the lasso max brush. You can find it by holding down on these two here, and then brings up these other options, and then we're going to choose lasso max, and then we're going to select the area where we want the hair to be, somewhere around here.
Alright everyone, thank you all for tuning in today for today's live streaming of day 2 of learning to sculpting in Blender. This is me, Sanket Lamsal, and I'm turning out. Peace out. Thank you for watching.